My name is Jordan Hernandez, and welcome to My Story Matters. So, I'm currently a sophomore right now, psychology major, and trying to get a minor in theology as well. Just to start things off, growing up, I didn't really necessarily grow up in the church until a little bit later. Growing up, the main ways I usually heard about God was through my grandma. She was Catholic. She would try to take me to church when I was younger, but I didn't necessarily understand anything there just because it was always in Spanish. So I was usually just sitting there for a while, not really knowing what was going on. But on the bright side though, something that she did do, because I'd always say that she was like the person that kind of planted the seeds for me to get to know God later on. I remember this was one day where she kind of just had a talk with me, because I forgot what exactly I asked her, but she was just talking to me about who Jesus was and how he died for all of us. And that was kind of the big roots in the beginning. I remember there was another church I kind of went to for a little bit growing up. Not with my grandma, but it was a different Christian church, and it was also in Spanish, ironically. It was just very different, and it kind of put a different vision in my mind of what it meant to be a Christian, because for a while I kind of thought that being a Christian meant that you had to follow all these sets of laws, and that's it. I didn't necessarily know about the more relational part of being a Christian, how you can have that relationship with God. And I guess in a way I viewed it more as a religion than as a relationship. Yeah, that was something kind of growing up that I was always really just confused about. And yeah, that was just something that was on my mind a lot. But luckily, I had my grandma for a while, and she always prayed with me every night and kind of gave me that little bit of God each night. And I'd say that growing up, my grandma was always the person that I felt the closest to. Eventually, when she did pass away, because she had cancer, it was about 2016, and I'd say that was about the turning point of my life, just because of all that happened during that year. For example, she did pass away that year, and from there we kind of realized that we needed a new start in life. I'm from Long Beach, and so you'll probably recognize the name of this church. I lived right across the street from it. It was called The Garden, and we decided, why don't we just try it out as kind of a fresh start for us. And it was a very different experience from what I remembered, compared to the other churches I had went to. For one, it was actually in English. But not just that, but just kind of seeing how it really, being a Christian really was being able to have a relationship with the Lord. And kind of from that too, I kind of just noticed a lot of different things that I never necessarily knew went with the church. I remember we all dressed super casual, or sorry, not casual, but super formal. But then realized everyone went in casual clothes, and that was something I didn't necessarily know went with that. And as I eventually did go into the youth group, that really kind of hit home, just because I didn't realize that the youth leaders there were actually there to have a relationship with you as well, and that they want you to get to know the Lord just as much as they want to for themselves as well. With that too, something that always kind of came to mind for me was I was always kind of filled with that idea that watching movies was bad, or I mean, even though I did growing up, that was something that I had heard from certain churches, and was kind of surprised that they let us for so long. But then I realized, for example, the head pastor there was very into Star Wars and stuff like that. And they even had a little Halloween carnival thing, which also surprised me, because for a while I had been told that it was a sin to celebrate Halloween. And I guess one of the things I did kind of take away from that was I didn't know that you could be a Christian and still have a life. And yeah, that was just something that kind of stood out to me. And being able to be with my youth group taught me a lot. And despite like all that happening in 2016, it didn't necessarily end the best. This was kind of at the end of that year was when our house had burned. And that was another really rough experience. But one of the takeaways I will always take away from it, even though it still was really, really rough, something that stood out to me during that time was my church was actively helping me and my family out during that time. And I guess I didn't really have like a community that necessarily cared until I came to the garden. And that was something that just really hit home for me. And I guess along with that, it was really nice kind of seeing that I had like another family there through the garden. And that was something that just really touched my heart. And despite the fact that we were homeless, like staying with one of my aunts for a while, that was just something that really kept me going through those rough times. Having my youth group and, just continuing to like learn about like who God was. And I even remember it was like August 2016 where I know they would do like a lot of those little sermons where they would kind of end with a prayer and they'd say like, if what's it called? If you want to accept Jesus into your heart, raise your hand. And I remember during that specific prayer was when I raised my hand. And yeah, I'd say through high school was when like I was really like actively going to church. And I remember I'd even take the bus to go. And yeah, that was something that I was really happy about. And it wasn't necessarily all like perfect, because like another rough season I did kind of have was around like 2018, I'd say, where I think I kind of just let like a lot of school stuff catch up to me, and just things in life in general kind of caught up to me. And it's kind of just phase in life where I was just feeling really sad a lot and just really stressed out. And I think during that time, I kind of just thought, I kind of felt like I used church as like more of an escape in a way, rather than like to actually go for my own personal like experiences with God. Even though I still did things like in a youth group, I tried volunteering a little bit more with like kids ministry. Still wasn't like the best, and plus it was like my junior year of high school too, where I was really just thinking about like what I wanted to do. I'd say like in high school, something I do still like need to work on a little bit today is anxiety. And I feel like that's something that I felt kind of burdened me a lot. Then something kind of went on. It was in 2019. This was a camp that we had been going on for the last 2 years as well. This was the third year I was going. But even though it was really nice going like the previous 2 years, I feel like this year in particular was what really stood out at this camp for me. And a lot of things kind of spoke out to me right at the time that I really needed to. It was like, it was July 2019. Yeah, kind of going into it, I kind of thought of like just using it as like an escape once again, and kind of wanting to just go and have fun, just because I feel like camp has been one of like the happiest places that I've ever felt. It was crazy because I feel like God was kind of using me like right from day one too. And one of the things I remember in particular, like that I had been learning throughout that camp, was really just learning more about who I am as a person. And what I remember, one of those things specifically was just on the first day, I kind of got split up with my youth group when it came to like seatings on the bus, so I kind of just sat with like a lot of people I didn't really know. I guess from that I kind of realized God made me kind of a very like social person and someone that likes to meet a lot of new people. That was something I realized that day. I remember one of the speakers, it was kind of weird because despite that being like the third year, the other 2 years we had like the same speaker that would come for that specific camp, and we got an entirely different speaker this year. But it was really, really cool because one thing I really just remember from that camp in particular was just how good that speaker was in particular. Like, it was crazy. Like, I remember we were kind of just sitting down. They had like a little fire that was going on, and he was standing beside it. And I remember just, not even just with like the message that he was trying to speak out, but just seeing like how confident he was in the way he was speaking, how connected he was with like his relationship with God. Just, it was really inspiring. And even when I heard like some of his personal story too, I was just still really impressed by like just that presence that he gave. And I remember one of those nights I kind of questioned to myself, like, what if I did something like that? And it was kind of just on the back of my mind though, but it was still something that I was kind of thinking about quite a bit. The very next day, I met a friend, one of the workers there at that camp. The way it kind of worked at that camp was we had our little cabins that we had dinner with, but then sometimes like, or sorry, not just dinner, but like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But then during dinner time was when we were able to have like meals with like other cabins and other workers. And I remember one friend in particular I made there. It was kind of funny because at first the way we met was kind of just through Disney movies, just talking about Disney movies the whole time. That stood out to me specifically, like my friendship with that particular friend. Just because one of the things that they did do like each year was like a variety show or talent show. I remember the other 2 years I did like a little skit, kind of like a superhero skit. And then this year I kind of wanted to do like something different because they were allowing me to do 2 different acts. So I was gonna do the superhero skit, and I also wanted to do like a little Disney song thing. I was kind of trying to think of like who to do like the Disney songs with, but then I remembered that friend that I made, and yeah, she told me that she would do it, but I also kind of noticed she was kind of nervous, so I let her pick, and we decided to do I'll Make a Man Out of You from Mulan. And as like when we eventually did get to like that variety show, something I've liked doing like kind of throughout high school and still a little bit now is just I've made like my own like little comic book series. You guys probably were questioning it right at the beginning of the video, but like a name that a lot of people like to call me, SJ. It just kind of, I don't know, it was just weird how it started because I think camp kind of just went with it because I kind of went by Super Jordan just because I liked Mario when I was younger, and then eventually just went into SJ, and yeah, and eventually just spread. But yeah, I remember it was like the adventures of SJ. I was trying to make like this little storyline. I had a few particular scenes in mind just because I noticed like a lot of like different movies tend to really inspire me, like Marvel in particular, and 2 of the scenes I remember having in particular like were mainly like when Captain America would get up and say like, I can do this all day. Just specifically like that vague like hero like rises when they're injured moment. I kind of wanted to put something like that into my skit. I kind of just thought like, oh, what if I had like the villains like saying like lies to me? I then get up and stand up to them saying that it was not true. Yeah, I did that little skit, and then it was fun to do, but something that shocked me after was I didn't realize how much like the students there were inspired by it. That was something that I didn't necessarily know that I can do because I was just trying to have fun. Eventually I did run into that friend of mine from that we were going to do our little Disney song thing with, and something that she told me too was I had like a heart to inspire like all the youth that were there. Yeah, which kind of continued to amplify like what I was thinking, and she was just kind of talking to me about like the gift that God has given me with like my creativity and just with being able to speak out to youth in general. And something else that she told me was that I had really inspired her too, because she said that she felt that being able to sing in front of like a crowd like that was something that she didn't necessarily feel comfortable with, but that I helped like encourage her to like step out of her comfort zone. Yeah, that was just something that was on my mind a lot during like the rest of that night. And even as I really thought about like the skit, like I know I had like those big like superhero moments like where the hero gets up, but I kind of realized like I implemented a lot of stuff that I was struggling with, and like mainly just with like lies that the devil would say about me, being very like down on myself and just being very anxious. Even then, like I kind of noticed towards the last day of camp that I was starting to kind of come back, just because I knew it was the last day and I just didn't want to leave like all I was learning behind. I even remember, because we went on like a little hike that Thursday. Remember when we got to the top of the hill, they kind of told us to go find like a little space by ourselves and just spend 15 minutes with God. And during that time, I remember during my prayer, and I was just asking the Lord, what do I do next? And just telling him that I didn't want to lose like everything that I had gained from this camp behind, and then just go back to like my anxiety and my constant like need to like find an escape from life. Even though I was still having like an internal like fight in my mind for the rest of the day, I still try to enjoy the rest of that camp day. The last service of the session came, and I was kind of just trying to worship, but I was still like fighting it. As the worship kind of went on, I kind of just try to pay attention to the specific words of the worship that was going on. And one of the things I kind of remember hearing was, it was during the song Reckless Love, and it was during the verse, there's no shadow you won't light up, and no mountain you won't climb up, coming after me, and no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down. And it was during that bridge, and out of nowhere I just started weeping. I'd say like kind of growing up with the garden, there were a few times where I kind of questioned if it was actually God like kind of tugging on my heart, or if that was kind of me just feeling like emotional. But I feel like this time in particular, like I knew God was with me, and he was kind of trying to talk to me, because even though like I was in a really like big moment of distress, something I felt like randomly was I kind of felt him like kind of easing my heart. And yeah, and as he was kind of talking to me, he was kind of just telling me that things were going to be okay, and that he was there with me. And I think slowly during that time, my tears kind of transitioned from distress to tears of joy, I'd say. Just knowing that I had the presence of the Lord with me through that. And later on, like, I was probably crying for maybe an hour or two. And kind of as I focused specifically, like, on, like, what God was telling me, I kind of realized that he told me that I should go into ministry. And I kind of discerned, like, as I continued, like, talking to him, I kind of discerned that it was specifically for youth. And especially, like, as I continue to think about, like, how much of an impact my youth group has had on me, I kind of just thought that there's a lot of, like, kids in general out there that really need Jesus and need that community to, get and understand who he is and just be able to find, like, who they are within him. And that was something that God was really putting on my heart during that moment. And since then was when I kind of realized what I've been wanting to do in life, and that's specifically to reach out to churches and be able to help out with youth groups. And I kind of took like a small step in the beginning. I helped with like Crew. It was like a high school organization that helped with bringing high school students to Jesus. And that was something I kind of volunteered with during the beginning of like my senior year. Eventually, when I did realize that I did want to pursue ministry was when I decided I wanted to come here to Vanguard. And yeah, that's been my goal ever since that moment. It was 4th of July 2019, and yeah, that's a date that's always kind of been on my heart. Even though there is still stuff I do need to work on with my relationship with the Lord, I still know that he's with me through this. And the more I help myself through my relationship with him, the more I'll be able to continue to help others. And being a part of SFD has really helped me a lot too, as I've been able to just grow and kind of understand what it's like to pour in others here at Vanguard through chapels and Shine. And overall, like just to kind of summarize like my specific experiences with Vanguard in general, it's just I really love this school. Like I really love that we can come together as family of Christ and just be able to have all these moments with each other. My time at Vanguard here has been something that I know I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life in general. So that's my story. And yeah, if you guys ever want to chat more about stuff like this or just hang out in general, you'll probably see me around campus quite often. Don't ever be afraid to just say hello, and if you want to get coffee or something, feel free to just reach out. And thank you.